Welcome to Deep Look. We are live on YouTube every single week. Normally we're on Tuesdays, but once in a while we're on Wednesdays. And this week we are on Wednesday, September 3rd. He is Keith Raynor, Ultra World Senior Editor. I am Charlie Eisenhood, Editor. And we're ready to go for a big show today. The club postseason is about to get started. We just wrapped up the regular season with the Pro Championships. Keith and I are both down there in Virginia. Spectacular weather. Maybe a little too windy, Keith, but hard to complain after how hot everything else was this summer.
It was nice. It was nice to be cool, and but I definitely would have dialed back the win if we could have. And we're gonna talk pro champs, and it's not just gonna be like a takedown of Truck Stop or Sprocket or Molly Brown, and we're not gonna just celebrate the golden teams, the winners, or Charlie, your idol, Nora Luloff. We're gonna talk about how it's done, the strategy of winning now in the regular season, and this is what it sounds like when Deep Look is on, free on YouTube. So go ahead and get some snacks, get a soda pop, strap in. It's gonna be a great episode.
Let's rock and roll. Keith, do we want to talk first about the bid drama? Because we had some real drama yesterday.
It's funny without like our Discord was popping off with the drama, but like without the wider ultimate Twitterverse or whatever, it's like hard to know who else was even in on the drama. But it was, I mean, we had some real scoreboard watching going on as people had to sweat. They had to sweat it out for the final count. But so really dramatic. Take us through what actually happened. I think we should start here because this is a little bit crazy.
It was crazy. So of course, projected rankings, Cody Mills's project that's now part of Ultiworld. We ran the numbers after games on Monday, on Labor Day, the last games of the season. And in the mixed division, the bid, which we knew was going to be a close cutoff, especially because Sprocket had a pretty bad couple of days at the beginning of the tournament, it was going to be very, very close at the end between Sprocket, Space Force, and Tower for the two remaining bids, like a musical chairs. Okay, so one of those teams is going to get left out, and their region, either the Northeast, the Southeast, or the Southwest, was going to get left out. Now, when we ran the numbers on Monday, Tower was out by 0.2 points, basically 0.22 rankings points, not 2-point rankings points, 0.22 rankings points. And basically, with that level of how close that was, it's possible for almost anything to swing that bid, right? They leave one game out because of an ineligible player. They, something that a score gets corrected. I mean, we saw that 10 years ago or something. They corrected a score at a tournament and it flipped a bid. And so we were waiting to see what's going to happen when the USAU rankings come out. So they come out yesterday, Keith, and it's Space Force that's on the outside looking in, and the Southeast losing that bid. Tower is in, Sprocket is in. And we noticed...
That's the end of the story, right?
Yeah, you would think. We noticed that the records for Dragon Thrust and Austin Disco Club were showing one fewer game played than what we had on projected rankings. So we're like, what's going on here? Like, why is this happening? And Eagle Eyes, Cody Mills, IDs that the problem is that the game between those two teams, the semifinals of the U.S. Open, was not marked as final on Score Reporter. It was at one point marked as final. I confirmed this with USAU, but somehow got unmarked as final and therefore was not showing up in the rankings. So they had to take the rankings down. They had to rerun the rankings with that game included. And because Tower played Dragon twice, but didn't play Austin Disco Club, who won that game, the other teams, I think, also played Dragon, but also played Austin. But the negative impact of that single game being included, which was a 1-goal loss for Dragon, dinged Tower through the tiny margins that they were to leave them on the outside looking in at the end of it all. And if you look on the USAU rankings right now, the two teams at the bottom there, Space Force and Tower, both listed as 1804. So we don't know exactly what the differential between them is, but again, on projected rankings, it was 0.22 points. In theory, it's exactly the same number on USAU, and that means that the Southwest will not get that bid, and the Southwest will have to go into regionals with just 2 bids, and Southeast will have 3, Northeast will have 3. Crazy.
Wow. Wow. I mean, Cody Mills, he used to bullseye womp rats. This guy, you can't sneak anything by him. And this is not the first time that he has caught the tiny little mathematical error that led to a change in bids, right? This is a hobby of his, really. Uh,
Yeah,
and wow, uh, incredible drama. Probably not fun for the teams involved. A lot of fun
that's
to watch from the outside.
that's tough. It's tough. Well, and what's I think is especially tough, um, Tower, uh, let's see, did they play? I don't think they ever played Sprocket, but they did lose heads up to Space Force at ESC. And like, it sucks because they were without Robin Fennig and a couple of other key starters for that Elite Select Challenge. Robin was in China covering the World Games. And this is what can happen. Like, Tower deserves a bid, and they may still go to nationals. It's not certainly any guarantee that Mischief and California Burrito are going to get through to nationals, given that Tower, I think, is very much going to be competitive for one of those spots. But if you don't bring full rosters to tournaments, it can really penalize you, and that's what happened here with Tower, who took some tough losses at ESC on Sunday. They lost to Space Force by 3, and they lost to AMP by 6, and that cost them like 100 rankings points. Those 2 games alone.
Honestly, like, we talk so much during the club season about what matters in the regular season, and we always do say, for that slim group of teams right around the bubble, and in the mixed division, I think it's the largest of any of the 3 divisions, that cohort teams that could be on either side of the line. Every point actually does matter. And sometimes, you're in consolation play and it's 11-6, and it's like, do we really need to try to do X, Y, and Z? But you might need to, because when everybody sits down and actually like counts every little bean, it's somebody's going to get left out. That's also probably a good thing. Like, obviously not in Tower situation, but you said Tower deserves a bid. We want to have a system where there are more teams that deserve a bid than get them, I think, because that's what makes it compelling. That good
Yep.
team, you can be a good team and still not earn a bid. That means that the regular season does matter in some way.
Yeah. And ultimately in the other 2 divisions, it wasn't that close at the bubble. Um, and so no real surprises there. Kelp last out in the women's division, so missing out on another bid for South Central. And like, they had a good season, and they should feel like they have some momentum going into next year, even if they can't get past Molly, which I'm sure they will not. But they also lost to Starling, and they lost to Iris at PEC East. And like, I know it feels like a preseason tournament, Keith, but PEC East, besides the time decay, counts the same as tournaments later in the season.
Yeah, if you want preseason, you got to go find on-section events, find some scrimmages, because these games count, even though they're early in the season. I did talk to one coach at Pro Champs of one of the top ranked teams, who was like, it's a little weird that for us, it is preseason basically, but we're playing against
Yeah,
teams for whom every moment this matters a lot, and it's a little bit of a
totally.
weird, wonky component of club season, and to some degree college season as well.
It's gonna be fun regionals. Do you have a early regionals pick for what's going to be the craziest region?
Well, what's going to be the craziest region? I mean, certainly we will be talking about mixed, right? Like, Do I even need to
Sure.
look at the other divisions,
I
or
mean,
can we just
I
concede
feel like,
before I even look at the final bid allocations?
you look at those bubble teams, right? So like Florida untied in the Southeast. I mean, I don't think they're going to make nationals, but I think they could make things kind of interesting. And then with a third bid in
I didn't say
Southeast
there's
mixed,
nothing
like
else interesting. It's just
that's for
clearly going
sure
to
going to
be
be
the most
interesting.
interesting in mixed.
There's a bunch of random teams that like in Southeast mixed that are in the top 50, many of which you haven't heard of. I think somebody just said Parliament out of Asheville. They're 9-1. And I think they have David Barzasi on their roster.
They have a
They have a
bunch of
massive roster.
random
I have no idea
international
who's playing for them
players.
in the series, but yeah, like if they actually bring their best possible lineup to regionals, like they can definitely take a bid.
And the history of Southeast mix implies that there's not a lot of safety to be had. There are often teams being eliminated by random clubs from Florida or Alabama or whatever. Like there's Charlotte, Asheville. You're not safe at Southeast. Three
Yeah,
three
and
bids is gonna
I
feel real comfy, but it's not that comfortable.
I forgot that RDU got a bid, and like they're not going to have Alan Laviolette and Toby Brooks to save the day for their O line at regionals. So
That's just narrative. I heard that's just
yeah,
narrative. That's what they say in
what
the
word is
Discord.
Alan is playing the series with BFG, Keith.
That's what's supposed to happen. We'll see how everything actually comes together. But he lives in Seattle, so it very well may be a big change. Uh, I mean, the answer to your original question, it's got to be Southwest mixed regionals, right? Like that. They could have had the
It's
third
going to
bid,
be
and
insane.
that might still be the answer.
The individual divisional region ranking, that's for sure number one right now. Because like you got
Yeah,
Lawless hanging around too.
I think I
that's
think
gonna
we
be
will
nuts.
be. It is very common for us to do a power rankings or a draft of these, so would not be surprised to see that on the horizon between now and regionals. It's crazy the
And hey,
postseason's here. Like sectionals is like this weekend.
Northeast men's pick up a bid with Phoenix coming in there at the 14th spot. They got that win over Bravo back at PC East when it was Bravo JV, playing with like random dudes off the street. And like that helped carry them. They crushed RDU at that tournament, and then RDU upgrades their roster for their late season tournament. So Phoenix cruises in with a bid for the Northeast, and obviously you're gonna have a ton of teams hunting for that spot. I mean, Blueprint, Mephisto, Red Tide, Sprout. Go down the list of teams that are capable of taking that third bid.
And it goes even deeper, Charlie, this Phoenix thing, because right, you said they benefit from Bravo. Don't forget that Bravo, even with still a short-handed squad, had a pretty respectable Pro Chance performance where they beat Rhino Slam and Ring, Egg. Those are gonna boost their rankings. And you know who else Bravo beat back in the US Open? Machine. 15-8. It's their most valuable win of the year. And who did Machine have? Machine was like a missing half the roster. So, and then Machine gets a big boost in the rankings because their roster shows up and they make it to the finals at Pro Champs. So it's been a weird year.
It has, and I honestly wonder if they're. I don't know what you can do about it, because if a team is sending a good team like Bravo, right, sends a terrible roster to an early season tournament, it distorts the entire season from a bid allocation perspective. I don't know what you do
Agreed.
about that. To me, the solution is to stop forcing teams to go to specific events and let them pick from a lineup of tournaments, because that specific problem was created because they were forced to go to that event, and they had a summit game or something and a wedding or whatever else, and so they had to send like a nonsense roster. And and Bravo doesn't care because they know they're going to be the best team in their region and they're going to earn a bid anyway. But then you get these weird like things happening elsewhere where Phoenix gets a third bid for the Northeast that probably they shouldn't.
I
Not
don't also don't
not
know.
sure what to do.
Rhino. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to fix it because there's myriad things going on with these roster changes, and like, this is not anybody's job, so we can't force them to be there. So it's So it's this year it feels like it could expose some problems that we have.
Well, the good news is when weird stuff like this happens, it makes regionals way more fun. There's way more exciting things to come at regionals. All right. Should we dig into pro champs?
Do you want to run through the final bid allocation, or do we feel like
Sure, let's do it. Yeah, we got it up on the screen right now for men's. 2 bids for the Great Lakes. Goat hangs on for the final bid. Northeast gets 3. North Central just gets the 1, which that's going to be fun. Mallard, Sub, and whoever else. Southwest gets 2. Mid-Atlantic gets 2. Northwest gets 2. Southeast gets 3. And South Central gets just the 1. How about that?
Tough look for
double wide all the way down at 26. They're a live dog.
But they're definitely a live dog, but didn't put together the regular season they needed by any means.
No. Okay, let's go to the mixed division. Take a look at how things shook out there. As you can see, with the little stars on the left-hand side, this is from the USAU site. Those are the teams that earned the bids. Space Force in at 1804 ranking. Sacramento Tower out at 1804 ranking. So it comes down to Great Lakes gets the 1. Hybrid's going to dominate. Northeast gets 3. Sprocket had people nervous at Pro Champs. Other Northeast teams were sweating. North Central gets 1.
Missing Tanner Johnson go, by the way.
Yes. North Central gets 1. Southwest gets 2. Mid-Atlantic gets 2. AMP hanging on to their bid. Northwest, just the 1 bid this year. It's been a long time since we've had a 1 bid Northwest. 3 bids for the Southeast and 3 bids for the South Central.
Shout out to MHT, Mile High Trash, earning a 3rd bid for the South Central.
Like,
I
solidly.
don't think they've been to nationals before, but like, yeah, solidly done the things I feel like people are not talking about them, but like they're gonna be in a great position to reach nationals, and they did the thing you're supposed to do in the regular season.
Especially considering that there's not really another credible South Central team. Like, everybody else is ranked way below them. The next highest ranked South Central team is 63rd, 0-turn lawnmower. So they should go to nationals.
And you gotta be frustrated right now if you're Burrito, one of the other surprise bid earners who also comfortably earned a bid for the Southwest 16-2. You're like, oh, we got the best roster, we had the best season that we've had, and where is Tower and Polar Bears and Lawless and Lotus? Why are we the second bid earner? Why are there not 3 or 4 of us? That's tough.
That's gonna be a fun regional.
I think a lot of people are going to be picking Burrito to give up that bid.
Yeah. On to the women's. We do have a bid earner in Pop outside of that top 16. They get the auto bid for the North Central. Great Lakes gets 1. Northeast gets 3. North Central gets 1. Southwest gets 3. Mid-Atlantic gets 3 as Grit comes in as the last strength bid earner. Northwest gets 3. Southeast gets 1. South Central gets 1. Northeast could be interesting.
That's kind of crazy. Oh yeah, yeah.
Sure.
I was going to say it's kind of crazy to me that this is there's only one non-top like 20 team or whatever that earned a bid. Nobody's far outside of the cutoff. But yeah, the Northeast has a history of having, like 3 teams at the front and a pretty solid group behind them, but the gap is often too large. So we'll see if Starling or Siege can find a way to overcome Iris. This is or Sixers being the other team. I think Sixers will probably be the favorite even if Iris has the bid, but I don't know what to make now.
Look out for New York Pizza Rat. I don't think they're making nationals, Keith, but shout out Pizza Rat. A fun name.
You got some oh, I thought maybe you had some league friends.
Do you know about the Pizza Rat? You remember the meme from a few years ago?
Yes, I've heard. Yes.
Rat's built different here. All right. That's the allocation. Should be fun. and we'll dig into regionals more when we get a little closer. Regionals coming up at the end of September and beginning of October. So let's get into pro champs. We'll start on the women's side, but I kind of want to ask a global question before we really dig into specifics. We have 3 teams, Keith, in each of the divisions. I should say 1 team in each of the divisions for 3 total teams that have now won the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown. US Open champs and pro champs winners for Hybrid and Fury and Revolver. So, which of these teams is most likely to sweep? What's the odds on a triple sweep parlay? And do you want to go out on a limb early and say one of these teams is not winning nationals?
Hold on. I'm googling. Are there bays in the state of Michigan? Only Bay Area teams allowed, and there are bays in the state of Michigan though. I haven't figured out if Ann Arbor is close to any of them, but Bay Area teams only. And yes, so the odds of all 3 was that the question?
Well, I triple barreled questioned you. I was like, which of these teams is most likely to win nationals? Do you want to say one won't win nationals? And what's the odds on a parlay?
Which of these teams is most likely to win nationals? I know which one I think it's not, but which one do I think it is? Pretty close to me. I'm going to say, I think I'm going to say Hybrid's the biggest favorite. Maybe that's crazy over Fury, but all 3 are definitely the firm favorites in their respective divisions. So Revolver's not that far behind them. I just think Revolver maybe has the toughest competition, the closest. So I think I'll go Hybrid as the most likely. I'd probably sprinkle money on the parlay though.
This is definitely the most dominant set
on that.
400. Wow, feels a little short.
Plus 300.
This is definitely the most
3 to 1.
No, I would say it's a little. I would say go bigger. It's probably more like 500 to 600. I think it's just hard for every team to show up. You know, I disagree with you. I think it's Fury is the most likely to win. I mean, they have just suffocated teams, Keith. Suffocated teams. And Hybrid's really good. Don't get me wrong. But I think that there's like a much more clear world where they can't, they can't close out a good team. I mean, you look at their results, and they've won however many. I think it's 13 games in a row at this point. But they've had some close games along that way. Whether it's enough, whether any of these teams can actually show up and get past them, I doubt it. I do think they're going to win, but I think Fury. I don't feel like Fury's been challenged in a single game this year. And obviously they're undefeated.
Well,
it just doesn't feel like they've come close to losing.
I agree with that part of your assessment, but here's the context that I think you're missing, which is that I feel like Fury has not seen the best of their opponents yet. We haven't seen full strength Brute Squad, most notably, and Scandal and Molly Brown and Phoenix are like just kind of coalescing now. Right, they're just getting back their full rosters, and I think they looked a little rough at Pro Champs because of that. So I feel like Fury has not gotten their toughest test yet, and this Riot team looks good. But when we talked to Coach Alyssa Weatherford, they certainly did not sound like they were anywhere near a finished product. Now, maybe that's the classic process defense mechanism. If all we're talking about is not wanting to win, then who cares if we lose? But I think it's probably more, hey, we're looking to develop for October. Hybrid. Look, I don't necessarily feel like has those same caveats.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I do think that we're going to see teams sharpen up offensively. I mean, across the board. So for instance, Scandal, right? They got some defensive pressure on Fury, but they also, they couldn't deal with the pressure that Fury was bringing on defense. And I think that's why I feel so good about Fury is I don't know if other teams are going to ever be able to withstand the onslaught that is Fury's defense. Hybrid turns it over some. So I feel like there's an opportunity there for a team to get them. I had a really important point to make, and I forgot what it was. It'll come back to me. But suffice it to say, these teams are all super strong. It does feel like, Revolver almost lost a truck this weekend. They were down 14-12. And so I think clearly they're the most likely to not win. And they're still the favorites, but I think other teams, Rhino to me looked decent at times this weekend, despite playing without half their key O-line players and their literal best 3 players, and arguably 3 of the top 10 players in the division. I certainly think Henry
Rhino
and Rafi belong in that conversation.
Rhino played shorthanded. When Revolver played machine, there was no Don. Like there are still some moving parts to be figured out in the men's division. I think that's one of the reasons you got to feel like there's some serious potential challengers for, and also a young Revolver team. Hybrid and Fury, championship pedigree there. And yeah, I know it's Revolver, and like Simon Higgins is around, and Malika's still there at the head of the ship, but that's a little bit different than a bunch of players who've gone through the gauntlet and managed to find success there.
I forgot to do something earlier, so we're going to do it now. It's time for our trivia question of the week. All
right, Charlie, you actually kind of teased this one, so to speak. So we saw the truck go without a single win at the Pro Championships, and their closest win, or their closest game, I basically felt like their best chance of winning. Right, I think they had some also on Universe, but maybe their best chance of winning was when they had that lead on Revolver, which they didn't win. So, when is the last time that Truck Stop beat Revolver at the Pro Championships?
Oh my gosh!
I guess I'll give you how many times. How many times do you think they've beaten Revolver? They played 6 times at the Pro Championships. How many of those do you think Truck Stop's won?
I'm going to say they're 1-5 lifetime against Revolver at Pro Championships.
Interesting. All right, I'll let you know how that is in just a moment. I'll tell you about our friends over at Breakmark. It's their 20th anniversary. I guarantee the Truck Stop beating Revolver fewer than 20 times at Pro Championships. It's Breakmark's 20th anniversary. They're celebrating by doing giveaways on Instagram every Friday. So make sure you're following Breakmark on Instagram. Get some of the free stuff. Get entered in those contests. But they also heard how a lot of their customers enjoy their bundles, the sublimated gear they get. But sometimes you just want 1, 2 sublimated items. So they lowered the prices on all their core sublimated items. The shorts, sublimated shorts, $30. Short sleeves, $35. Reversibles, $35. And that is sublimated gear, not just some screen printed joint. You're going to get the great designs. You'll also get the same great quality of gear and the amazing customer service that you're used to from Breakmark, just at a lower price point. So they're pumping out those team orders now. Make sure to hit up our friends over at Breakmark. Charlie, you're going 1-5 across those 6 matchups, which goes all the way back to the Pro Flight finale. We talked a lot about the tournament name, but I won't get too far off. No, they are in fact 0-for. They have failed to win a single time. So we should have known. We should have known how that game was going to go, because they've never beaten Revolver at this tournament.
Well, what's crazy to me about that is that I feel like, and maybe this is just a couple of games influencing me on this, but I feel like Truck has always played really well against Revolver. Like when Revolver was at their height of their powers, they played Truck in quarters, and Truck got to Universe against them. This was like 2017. I think Revolver went on to win that year. And it was just like, it was Ashland Joy to Bo, deep shot to win on Universe. But like Truck has given them trouble. So I'm surprised they've never won in like that regular season thing. Now, the difference is that, 10 years ago, Truck was a marginal Nationals team, and Revolver was the world's best team. And then Truck was the best team for a while there, for at least for a couple of seasons. So I'm surprised by that. But you look at I just pulled up the Ultiverse matchup history. They have a lot of close games against each other over the season.
Yeah, it's very close.
They're
They're not wrong that they've given Revolver trouble, just not enough trouble.
The last time that it's been since the last 5 matchups over the last 2 years have all been decided by 3 or fewer goals. And if you go back in time, like there's lots of under 3 goal deciding scores. I mean, 2015 Revolver 13-12 over the Truck. That might be the one that I'm thinking of. Pro Flight Finale 2015 was 14-13 Revolver. So yeah, it's definitely, in favor of Revolver. How many wins does Truck even have? I count 3, I think. 4 total wins since 2014 out of like 15 games. But they've given him trouble.
Shout out Ulti-Verse, and shout out Errol in the chat who says Revolver makes them, being truck stop, look like a bus stop. I guess bus stops are worse than truck stops. I don't know where on the continuum that works, but the joke works. I get it.
All right. We are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to recap Pro Champs. More to come. Stay with us. It's Deep Look. Welcome back to Deep Look. Pro Champs was this weekend, and it was a great tournament as usual. We got a lot of just awesome matchups, including some teams that hadn't even played this season, which is always fun. How about Fury Riot bringing us home, Keith, in the women's division, and just like a throwback matchup. The last time they met in the finals, this is our trivia question on the broadcast. Last time they met in the finals of US Open, Pro Champs, or Nationals was 2015. Before this year, because they met in the finals of US Open as well.
It's nice to go back and order an old standby after you've been mixing it up. Like, if you've been eating the same meal all week, it's kind of boring. But when you mix it up and then you go back to something and you like and it's familiar, it's nice. Although, this game wasn't necessarily the most fun game that I've ever watched.
No,
it had 76 turnovers or something of that nature.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the wind was pretty serious, and the defense was tough. Also serious. Let's take a look at the bracket, and Fury, of course, continuing their undefeated season. There's a look at how things shook out. Riot sneaking past Phoenix in semis to get to the final. And I think proving for sure that they're for real, Keith. I have to say, I have a hard time buying them as an actual championship contender because their best players are like 18. It's unbelievable to watch this team play. And they're awesome. They use their speed really effectively. They play super fast off the turnover on D-line. I think they're a really good team. I think their quarters lock. They may well get to semis, but I don't think they're going to win a championship this year. But loved seeing a fully revived Riot. We haven't really seen a Riot team this good since before COVID.
It's crazy watching them send out a line where it's like Chloe Akimi and Ella Widmeyer handling and Nora Luloff cutting, and it's like they're all 18 and 19,
And they're the ones making the
and
plays.
17. It's pretty wild. And
Hakimi's
like
throwing
Chloe Akimi is like their
backhands.
crossover player.
Yeah.
And even
She's built different,
the
Keith.
vets on the team are Steph Phillips and Kate Lanier and Carly Campana. Like those are those salty dogs. I know Rachel Bradshaw and Abby Abramovich are there, but like those are like the core players of the team. It's pretty wild to see for sure. But I agree with your assessment. Their quarterfinal though, almost undoubtedly is going to be one of the ones to watch. You know, that is going to be appointment viewing because they're probably going to get a great test and they're obviously good enough to beat basically anybody. But you do wonder about the championship bona fides as they get further into the bracket. They were outclassed by Fury here. Just far too many execution errors, weren't able to mount the same kind of defensive pressure consistently. And I think that they had a lot of success running zone throughout the tournament. Certainly it was helpful for them during the semifinals against Phoenix, and Fury was much better at managing that zone than some of the other competition they played. Kirsten Johnson and Anna Thompson were exceptional and could overcome the fact that Carolyn Finney couldn't hit the broadside of a barn for half the game. So that's Fury depth for you. You know, they have Anna Nazaroff is also playing super well. So that's how Fury rolls. That's their deal. They can play with a star player playing poorly or without them because they're deep like that.
Yeah, and they can rely on their defense to get them back. I mean, this feels like watching the World Games team play. You know, like their O-line was coughing it up, but their D-line was relentless. And that's how it's been all season. So, you know, can any team in this division find a way to punish the Fury O-line turnovers and stay strong and only give up, 3 or 4 breaks and potentially, knock Fury off at nationals? I don't know. I don't think so, but that is going to be the task on everyone's mind. Because it's not like they're going to just play perfect offense the whole game.
No, but yeah, we actually had a mailbag question. I don't think we're getting to it this week, but maybe we'll talk about it at some point about these defense first teams. Now they've been successful at multiple different events. But yeah, the Fury's been a extremely strong defensive team, and they also have a clear offensive identity, which helps them get through some of their rough points. And I think they sacrifice some of their complete offensive efficiency through their rotation. And we've talked a lot about it with the World Games team, which Maddie Sang also coaches, about losing some of the chemistry that can power great offensive lines by not playing pure O&D lines. But what they gain is just like absolute team-wide defensive tenacity.
And it's obvious in these score lines. I mean, they're just smashing a really good Scandal team, 15-10. Scandal looking real solid, I thought, overall this weekend. Taking down Brute in quarters. Claire Trope is best player on earth and continues to look that way. And I think arguably they were the second best team here.
I think that's arguable, but I don't think I would make that case necessarily.
So, give me your thoughts then on your pecking order coming out of this tournament as you look ahead to nationals.
I mean, I look at the other semifinalists too, Riot and Phoenix. I think they both had pretty solid weekends. Obviously not quite the best that they could play, but I think showed good signs for them. And then I guess you're going to give Brute Squad kind of an incomplete on the weekend because they were playing without some of their key players as well. Phoenix does get the win over Brute Squad. They play the super close game with Riot. They end up losing the Scandal in consolation play, especially given how windy the last day was. I'm not sure how much I want to make of that. But Alex Barnett and Bridget Meisner and Don Colton give them like a really, really strong top end. So I think I think we do want to continue to caveat a little bit with the wind as to how that impacted how teams looked and where their strengths lie. I think it probably was like a demerit for Scandal overall. I think that they may look even stronger out of the wind, which perhaps buttresses your case. But I just don't think there's a clear two is the real reality of it. I think that
That's fair.
I just don't think that there's a, like you have Riot, Scandal, Phoenix, Brute Squad. You have that whole group, and I think they all have their arguments. And then I think nobody's ready to count out Molly Brown. Could it be a down year for Molly Brown? Sure. Might they have their season ended in quarters? Very possible. But I don't think anybody's willing to say that they are not concerned about having Molly Brown in their pool or whatever.
They go 1-5, losses to Scandal, Riot, Flipside, Fury, and Brute. Respectable losses for the most part. And they get blown out like they did by Fury at US Open. Their only win coming against a pretty shorthanded Sixers team, 15-13. I thought Sixers actually played pretty good considering how thin their roster was. But yeah, I think Molly's got to figure out what they're doing on offense. It continues to look kind of like a mess, and I think they need to figure out like what is their rotation going to be, and who are they asking to step up and make plays. I mean, I'm starting to worry that Valeria just like has taken a little bit of a step back, at least temporarily, because we didn't really see a lot out of her at World Games, and it feels like we haven't seen a lot out of her for Molly this season.
Well, she's on the D line a lot, which
I mean, and that doesn't make sense
the
to me.
potential of the greatest potentially the greatest thrower in the division.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see rotation changes from Molly Brown after this weekend, and if they're going to look back at this weekend as a mistake in, they learned that lesson. But they decided, hey, let's stick with the offense as we've constructed it, and we'll integrate these other talented players elsewhere. And when that's not working, then they move them over. And it's like, okay, well, now if you had decided to do that earlier, you could have been figuring out a lot of the things even earlier. So I wonder if there's going to be questions. Molly Brown's going to look a little different by the time we come to nationals. Not necessarily better, but different as they start to figure out, okay, how do we deploy all our World Games players who are returning and rejoining the team? Also, don't forget the teams that aren't here. Parchas had this kind of breakout regular season. Could they be for real? Could they be a real threat? And Bent being the other top ranked team that's not in attendance.
Absolutely.
That also will look a bit different than they did in the regular season.
I think for sure the biggest question mark is Brute with their skill players coming in. Levka probably foremost among them. And then also Riot's adding Phoenix is adding Sarah Mextroth. And so like these pieces, they matter. And when it comes down to nationals, and you've got teams in their final forms, it's going to be very fun nationals, especially if somebody can find a way to put up a good game on Fury. Look at these score lines, dominating.
Yeah, they're very good. The Fury team is definitely the team to beat, and everybody's probably going to be very familiar with looking at their backs as they try and chase them down.
Mini trivia question. What's the closest score that Fury has won by this season?
15-11.
No, 15-12. Brute took him to 15-12 in pool play at this tournament.
Oh, okay. Nicely done, Brute.
But how crazy is that?
Yeah, they
okay.
I'm sure they could construct their own adversity in their head.
Let's move on. Let's go to mixed, and let's take a look at how this bracket shook out. Hybrid continuing their win streak that they started at US Open, and they rolled through on to another win here at Pro Champs. And they just look, Keith, solidly the most skilled on both offense and defense of any team in this division, and that's why they've really separated. And look at the score lines. Crushing win over Mixtape. Even bigger and more impressive win over Exist, who had looked quite good, I thought, to this point. And then, after kind of playing close early with Slow, gave up a couple breaks early, their defense just put the pedal down and pulled away from slow down the stretch of the final.
Very, very impressive showing from Hybrid, following up what was already strong play at the US Open. And I like, we're starting to think about our top 25 player rankings. I'm like, okay, how many spaces for Hybrid players am I going to get in here? Because, I got to have Rachel Mast, and I got to have Dalton Smith, and obviously I got to keep Nathan Champeau. And then you got Eric Bartlett, and then you got Sarah Nitz, and McKenna Mattimore is having an awesome season, and Mark Answer's pretty good, and Liliana Hobday is kind of having a breakout year for them.
Yeah.
Kat McGuire wasn't playing this weekend. What happens when she comes back? Abe Coffin's pretty good. They're stacked. The fact is, this team is stacked, and they know how to do it. I don't know what you say is this team's weakness right now. Not to say that they can't be beat. They already have lost games, but if you're game planning for this team, I don't know what you're attacking right now.
I know. I mean, I remember when it felt like, Sarah Nitz was like their clear, like, offensive focal point on the FMP side. And I was like, okay, can you deal with Sarah Nitz? Not easy to do, but like maybe you could find a match. But now that like Sarah Nitz didn't score a goal in the final. And like you just don't have easy options against them. I feel like the chemistry on their O line with the mass together, and then the chemistry on the D line with like those double wide guys playing together, it's really working well.
Yeah, it's weird for a Michigan team to have this like Texas contingent. I find that very strange. But like they're just a really strong team. They get contributions up and down the roster, and I think if the season ended today, like Rachel Mast is probably my player of the year in the mixed division. Like they're going to be tough to knock off, and it's definitely going to be. I'm going to need something really convincing to happen between now and then for me to think they're not going to win nationals, because there's nobody else who has put together any type of convincing performance in the rest of the division. Capable of it, sure, but every other team has some clear red marks in the ledger.
Yeah, it feels like the only way is like we get still conditions and another team has an O-line performance for the ages. They like don't get broken, or they only get broken once, and they're able to get 2 breaks off hybrid. But I think that's very, very difficult to do against this hybrid defense.
It is, yeah, right. That's the thing, is it isn't like hybrid is like a perfect execution offensive team. They turn it over like with some frequency, but Rachel Mast like gets on the disc back half the time.
Yeah.
Even if she was the one who turned it over, she's just like a fantastic defender, and their D-line and their O-line in general plays pretty good. So that I think really adds to making it feel like it's difficult to figure out exactly where to get in on them.
Sorry. All right. Who else impressed you this weekend? Like, let's go there. Who's the next best team in the mixed division? Because I think everybody agrees the hybrid's number 1.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, I think I'd still look at BFG. I know they lost to Slow. It was kind of a windy, dragged out game. You could tell by the score line. So they also have beaten Slow before. I think between the experience of what we've seen from BFG, the talent, plus they're adding Alan Laviolette, that's going to be a huge pickup for them. Mika Kurahashi is potentially going to be like an all club player. No surprise there. So I think I'd have to side with BFG, but how can you not be impressed by Slow making a run to the final? I know their overall record for the tournament was not that impressive, but being able to beat Dragon Thrust BFG in the fashion that they did shows you the potential upside of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't name the team that I would say. For me, that's the 3rd place finisher. Exist. And I know they got just dogged by hybrid in that semi
like dogged.
I know for sure. But they look like they have the pieces to be in the finals challenging hybrid at nationals. Now, to be fair, they've split with Slow this season. They did beat Slow at Pro Champs, but Slow beat them back at PC East. They also split with BFG at Pro Champs. So I have no problem with you saying BFG. I mean, I think my thought coming into the season was that BFG was the next best team, and perhaps that should still be where I land. But I was just really impressed with what I saw from Exist. I thought Sadie Jazerski was playing really well. I thought Jolie Krebs looked fantastic. Oliver Chartok is a force for their offense. I think that they have the pieces. I did not watch that hybrids Exist game. I know we have the tape, so I'll try to go and watch it at some point because I want to know what went wrong in that one. Because when I was watching their game against Space Force, their O-line went through that Space Force defense like butter. It was no contest. It was like 5 throw scores, and then the Exist D-line would come out and force 5 turnovers on the next point. So really impressive. I mean, snapshot game, that's how it is being on the ground as a producer. I'm seeing the games that are on my field, and that's it. But I was really impressed, and I like the roster already coming in. And obviously, getting that third place win over BFG is a confidence builder in what they might be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's positive things to say about Dragon Thrust. They played really close with Hybrid, probably the toughest game Hybrid's gotten in recent vintage. And then they had some lulls. Obviously getting beat by 5 by Slow is a rough result, but you can see the pieces there. Like many other of these teams, as I was saying before, I think that it's going to be about who plays well when, because I think it's very possible you're going to see a team, go 1-2 even in pool play and nationals, and then turn around and reach the final because the teams are vacillating in their level of play. Like you can see how a Dragon Thrust team with Shigal Gelfin and Ryan Vanuka and the Suflos flying around playing defense, if they get Caleb Denacor back from injury, he'll obviously add in as well James Pollard. Like there's a ton of talent and experience on this team, and you see it coalesce on the field at times, but you also see them go through patches of rough play. So they're another team that I think merits mention for doing some nice things on the weekend, but again, just the inconsistency.
And that's been the difference. It's like one of the reasons hybrid has dominated these 2 Triple Crown events is that they haven't had that same kind of inconsistency game to game. What else from this division? Sprocket obviously not looking sharp at all without Tanner Johnson Go out there. But they do enough, to keep their bid, which was the kind of the number one goal for them this weekend, I think. Mixtape is not a team that really belongs in the top 8 right now. I mean, they got in here because of how they played last season, but they were the odd team out, I thought.
I rewind just a little bit. I did enough to keep their bid. It feels very charitable to the results for Sprocket. 15-8 against
Fair.
Hybrid, 15-9 against Dragon Thrust. You lose to Space Force, 15-9 versus BFG.
It was brutal.
They did at the end. They clutched up. They beat Mixtape by 4, and they kept it close with Dragon. But it was like they were doing everything they could to lose that bid. It was concerning. I think that getting Tanner back will shore up a bunch of things, but some red flags with Sprockets.
There's no way in the world this team is going back to a national final, right?
The only reason to say that they could is because they did, when we also probably thought there was no chance of making the final, but like all evidence is to the contrary right now. Live players not saving them this time.
Right.
Although it's the male matching players who need saving, so no offense. No disrespect, but here's something incredibly disrespectful.
I will say, I mean, Tanner Johnson Go is a big deal to bring back. It's a big deal.
Yes.
Makes their offense significantly better. Mixtape, so young. It's like some vets and then like a bunch of children. And I think this feels like the handover period for Mixtape, right? Like this is the transition time.
maybe they're seeing what's going on with Seattle Riot, and they're like, why don't we do that? Let's run that method
Youth
because
movement.
it's paying off for Riot, yeah. And there's not enough youth talent in Seattle to go around.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly true. They go winless. Their closest game was 13-10 with Space Force. But again, that's not a surprise. Like they have not been the same caliber of team that we've seen over the last almost decade at this point.
Indeed, this it's hard to imagine them returning to form.
Other thoughts here before we move on?
No, hybrid's favorite. Everybody else is playing catch up, and it
Yep,
is so hard to figure out exactly who to expect to fill out those other 3 semifinal slots.
for sure. All right, let's move on to the men's division. Revolver is your champion. Uh, they have just one loss on the season. Guess who, Keith? Truck got them back at US Open before Revolver got them back later. We did get the matchup that maybe we expected to see before the season started in a high profile event. Revolver and Machine going head to head in the final. I feel like the game felt a little closer than 15-11, but Machine giving away some kind of cheap breaks in the second half, and Revolver clearly the best team, but Machine had some really bright spots, and they played without Don Desmarais, which he is going to bring a lot to them and we saw that on the field when he was playing this weekend. Nothing major. He said just a tweak in his glute when he was playing in the semifinals. So, Machine certainly bounced back, but we can start with Revolver if you want to.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, Machine is pretty intriguing. I didn't pick them to make the final. Neither did you. We were both too concerned about what we saw at US Open. And you mentioned that they gave up some easy breaks in the second half. How about in the first half when Kyle Rutledge drops the opening pull and they give a
Yikes.
freebie, just a straight freebie to Revolver. But you know what? Credit to them. They battled back. They were down 7-4 and looked like they might just get run over. But they brought it back and brought it into what, 9-8, 10-8. So they made it a lot closer, which I think is a credit to them because this Revolver team is really good. I mean, I said after the final, there's a chance that Revolver has both the best O-line and D-line. And I still think that is possible. There was no Tim Shock, no Don Desmarais, so a little bit shorthanded for Chicago. And I think that they're still figuring out how I think they played one practice with McGuckin. They're still integrating Bontemps. Like this team is very much not an incomplete team from where they're going to be. So I expect them to be better, and they're certainly going to be one of the top challengers for the championship this year.
A monumental moment on the field for the first time in 2025. I saw Michael Ing lose a jump ball. Nate Goff got him. Like that, Michael Ing playing on another level right now. I mean, his defense continues to look incredible. But yeah, I mean, look, Machine was at 8-8, Keith. They broke twice out of half to get to 8-8, and then they never broke again. Revolver got 3 breaks down the stretch. And yeah, but there was some really good signs. I mean, you've been hyping Rutledge Smith a lot, and I thought he played great. Paul Arders threw one of the
2 goals,
craziest
2
hammers I've
assists.
ever seen. I thought McGuckin played well. I feel like all around, I thought they played pretty well. A couple too many poor turnovers, but I do think that you're right that there's some chemistry issues that are going to get worked out. Machine is a very credible team to win the national championship, and that's no surprise given the talent on the roster. But I think we really saw that this weekend. With Desmarais out there, this might be a universe point game.
Yeah, and we didn't mention Will Wettengel, the birthday boy on the finals day. He had a poor game. He actually came up and said that to me also. But prior to that, he was like their best defender. So he's kind of having a breakout campaign. And when you combine the size that this team has, they're big. Goff and McGuckin and Wengel, and then you got some guys who play big with Desmarais. Like they could be a big athletic team, and that is something that I'm not sure that other teams in the division will be ready for, aside from maybe Rhino, if they access that part of their game.
Let's talk a little bit about Revolver. I mean, they've got like grinder D line guys who like don't have any stats who are just incredible defenders. Like, um, but like like Leo Gordon looked awesome this weekend. I thought Mac Hecht played really well. It goes without saying that Michael Ing is playing well. Walker Frankenberg had some really good moments. I just like they are so solid top to bottom, and they can throw out some tremendous defenders. It's really tough to like consistently score on them. How many breaks did they end up getting? Well, 6 breaks against Machine. That's a lot.
Yeah, to name some names, Robin Vickers-Batzdorf, Dexter Clyburn, uh, Seamus Robinson has really, I think, taken on a really big defensive role in his first year with the team. Nathan Kwan, Dan Riddaller has been one of their best defenders. And of course, you got to lend a ton of credit to Jason Valley, who I think is potentially putting together an all club season as kind of the quarterback of their D line. He's a great defender and then kind of drives the offense after the turn. So when you put all that next to what the D-Pody, if the season ended today in Michael Ing, their D-line is nasty. And then the O-line, you mentioned Mac Hecht, Leo Gordon, the Brown connection. Gordon seems just like completely undeniable in the end zone. And Mac Hecht, it was dealing this weekend. And that's before you even get into, Adam Reese and Walker Frankenberg and Raekwon Atkins,
Yeah.
who's prone to those kind of takeover points. Like, if they don't have the best O-line and D-line, those lines have the ceiling to both play the best in an individual game. And that's kind of like was the Rhino recipe last year, right? And to some degree, maybe the truck stop recipe 2 years ago. Remember when it was Troy Holland and AJ Merriman, like this nasty D line, and then you try to flip over and you have the best O line in the division. Like you have to have an O line and a D line that can be the best in like a 2-hour period, and Revolver definitely got that.
All right. Give me your thoughts on the other 2 semifinalists, Dig and Pony.
Yeah, I was talking with a player from Dig after the tournament, and he felt pretty good about the way they played. Despite the fact that they didn't like have ultimately the most successful weekend. They go 1-2 in pool play. They get knocked out by this Revolver team, although they gave Revolver a pretty good game. I think Dig feels like they are on the right track, that they are on the trajectory they need to be at nationals. And obviously, we could sit here and list all the big names. And the big people, like people that are actually quite large. They have a lot of them. I think people have kind of got
physically giant people.
And Simon Carapello, who was not there this weekend. But they I'm still waiting to see them feel like a tenacious team. You know what I mean? Like they feel like you feel like you have players who could bring that, but I don't know. I just feel like I haven't seen them put their foot on the gas yet. And I can't decide if that's like, okay, they're all in the process or whatever, or if I'm a little worried that we haven't quite seen that from them yet. Maybe it's just I haven't caught them in the game where they did that. And maybe I need to go back and watch their game against Ring or something. But I just feel like I haven't seen that from them yet.
Weirdly, I feel like they need more Babbitt. I feel like Jeff, this lineup is pretty similar to the team that won the UFA championship. And on that team, Babbitt is everywhere for the Boston Glory. And for Dig, it feels like he just hasn't been as impactful as he's capable of being. And I wonder if they need a little bit more of a dose of Jeff Babbitt, because Toby DeCrona, like in the game we watched against Revolver, was fantastic. He made some incredible plays in that game. It was a pretty clean game overall. I think, considering the wind, I think the a lot of turnovers not assigned to individual players, but Diggs' O-line had 12 turns. Revolver's had 8. And considering conditions, it's not bad. But I just, yeah, I know what you're saying because it just doesn't feel like we've seen them at any point, maybe ever as a team, look like the best team in the country. They've been a good team. This is the best roster that they've had for sure. And, they dug themselves a pretty deep hole in the first half against Revolver and weren't able to climb out of it at the end. But I don't know. I agree with the player that you spoke to that they have the pieces. The question is, will they be able to put them all together and put together those clean holds? Because I actually love their defensive looks, and I think that their D line's very capable of getting breaks against anybody.
Yeah, I mean, when Oscar Graff's healthy and he's playing, and they have Borthen, Oscar Graff, playing back and forth, and Cole Davis Brand running around, and Ben Horsberger has brought the same defensive chops that he showed at college to the club level. They have real defensive tools, but just feels like we haven't seen them be super assertive. And again, that maybe I didn't catch the game that they did that, but I just feel like I haven't seen that from them yet. The other semifinalist was Pony, the team that I predicted to make the final. They did not play their best this weekend. They went 2-4, and I'm sure that was a tough loss in the semifinals. And just like, dare I say it, but do they look old, Charlie? Does this team look a little old? JR having to do a lot of work.
He was a
JR
beast.
and Harper Garvey and Ben Dameron and Anders Youngst, like the young guys. Isaac Kaplan. I did not expect Isaac Kaplan to have such a sizable role, but they seem like they haven't figured things out yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting roster. They have to make some tough decisions, I think, about like what their rotations are going to be.
Yes.
And I thought that their like D-line offense looked pretty good for the most part. But just too many turns, too many execution mistakes from the O-line. And I think right now John Randolph looks like the best player on this team. And that's a team that includes Chris Kotcher. And maybe that's a pro champs effect, but I won't be surprised if we feel the same way after nationals. And Chris still very capable of being an all club level player. But we're going to need to play a little better, I think. And it's interesting. Like you see these like moments from some of their like depth guys, like like a Tristan Yarder or Scott Heyman. They have these really good moments. I feel like we need to see more of that. I honestly wonder if they need to let the kids play more, because look at what these other teams are doing. We're seeing 22, 23-year-olds running these teams in many cases. Like, and yeah, it does feel like Pony maybe has a few guys from the glory days still that it's time for them to retire. And that's going to be the challenge for the coaching staff, I think, because I think there's enough pieces there that Pony can contend. I don't know if I see them as a champion though, as currently constructed.
I see you didn't mention their other World Games player, along with Chris Kotcher.
Yeah, I mean Marquez is, I think, super valuable, and could be their best player at nationals. Definitely possible.
Yeah, I think they definitely didn't live up to the hype that we saw early in the year when it was like, oh wow, how is anybody going to stop Chris Kotcher, Sam Little, Ben Dameron, and Anders Jokst and Ben Yacht from holding every point? Like how is somebody going to figure out a thing to do about that? They did not look like that, and maybe that's the win. Maybe the win impacts their ability to kind of like run their small ball give and go setup. But yeah, they were playing without Yacht and Antoine Davis this weekend. So maybe that impacts the ability of the old guys contingent to feel like they're playing their best. But I got to admit that the team that I watched this weekend did not look like the like 1A, 1B that I felt like they were being asserted as in the early season when they were crushing, when
when
we
they won
first
PC,
saw
when they won
this new
PC
lineup.
East. Yeah.
Yes, when
Yeah.
they won PEC East. So I'm wondering if that was a flash in the pan or if this team really is that good and we just are not seeing it yet.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I do think the wind was a big factor for everybody. But yeah, I don't know. Semis feels like they're ceiling to me right now. Got to say, still a really good team.
Yeah, I mean that's a good place to be when semis is your ceiling. Because I think if you make semis, you have a shot. You got to win 2 games. Like anybody who can make semis can win the title. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so let's see. So of the other 4 teams, we had Truck, Ring, Bravo, Rhino. Many of them missing key players. What are your thoughts on what to expect from those 4 at nationals? Like rank them maybe in terms of your
imagine me having
belief.
thoughts with a period and not just ending in question marks, because I have a lot of questions after this weekend. I gotta say, I cannot believe Bravo put together as successful as a weekend as they did. I really cannot. I don't know if that means I need to like start buying stock in Bravo because they're still playing incomplete. Like, what happens when they have their full roster and like Quinn Finer's there and stuff? Like, who's this team gonna be? Maybe we're sleeping, or I don't know. I need to watch more tape on Bravo. Nice showing from Ring. Kind of wrote them off. Said they're the most likely team to go 0-3 in Pool B. And maybe they put that on the bulletin board. And if you want to talk a team that's letting the kids get busy, I feel like they are. You know, a lot of Josh Singleton running around out there. They're letting the young guys play on this squad. They're a dangerous team. I think they're dangerous. I'm surprised given the type of talent that they lost, but they're still putting things together. Rhino, altogether they probably played pretty well considering what they're missing. I think you kind of tapped into this earlier, but
I personally feel very
talent,
positively about Rhino.
Yeah, the volume of talent that comes back to this team is pretty remarkable. And if you take where they are now and you just simply arithmetically, is that the right word? If you just add back the talent, you give everybody a number assignment for how good they are, you add back the talent, like this is a championship level team again. So when you inject Dylan Freechild and Henry Ying and Matt Rader and Rafi Hayes back into this team, I think you're got to feel pretty positive about that team.
I mean, just
Truck, tough weekend. Bus stop.
Yeah. I mean, Rhino played Revolver day 1. They lost 15-12. Their O-line had 10 turns. Like, how many turns is their O-line having when they're at full strength? 4?
I seem to remember 0, right?
I mean, right. I just
do you remember that?
I feel like I do remember that. I feel like the challenge for Rhino is not going to be talent. It's going to be, is everybody like meshing well together? Because they haven't had like full lineups for most of the season. So I don't know what to expect there, because I do think it's a challenge to not have your whole team come to this like last tune-up tournament. And I know they have regionals, but it's going to be really interesting, because I think if they can get their O right, they could win the title again. They could become the first team. I think they're legitimate title threats.
I agree with you. And they've barely I know they haven't had a chance to play a ton together, but they also have like 3 roster changes from last year. So I don't know how many reps they're really going to need to get up to speed. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, if you're asking me to power rank these 4 teams, Rhino is definitely at my 1 spot from these 4 other teams.
What's wrong with Truck? I mean, is this just like they don't have Johnny Malks anymore? I mean, they go 0-3 on day 1. And then they come out and they almost beat Revolver, but they blow a 14-12 lead. And then they lose their consolation games to Ring and Rhino. So they go 0-6. And it's not Boxley's unbelievable. He's playing incredible right now. Aiden Downey looks awesome. They have all this like talent. I don't understand like what's going wrong. Is it just a couple of small problems? It's weird watching Thomas Edmonds like throw bad jump balls after watching him play like incredible ultimate for the Canada World Games team. I feel like that the O-line is just not clicking right now.
Yeah, I also agree that the O-line looked subpar at this tournament. And that's despite Downey and Boxley. Although Boxley even had some less than stellar moments. They still, I'm not sure that Miles Grovic or Cole Jurek are really at full health. I thought Jock Nissen didn't have his best weekend either. And altogether, like when all that's happening at the same time, Andrew Roy made some mistakes I'm not used to seeing him make. Like I think altogether that's gonna pull down on your offense.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like that is their offense. Like you just named a bunch of guys on their offense not playing well.
I know it is, and I also think that like they still look like they're adapting to a new style of play. It feels like they changed offensive coordinators, so to speak. Like they're running a different offense, and they still look like they're adapting to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but they definitely miss Johnny Malks and Troy Holland. They definitely miss those two people.
Yeah. It's like someone to take the tough throws. I'm going to be curious to see how they turn out at nationals because it feels like if they can like sink in and get what they want from their offense, that they're still going to be a top tier team. They could go to semis, but they do not look like that right now. And the ability of opposing D lines to like stack and force turns and get breaks is pretty obvious, I think.
Would you put Thomas Edmonds on the O-line? If you were coach?
I have a hard time figuring out what to do, but I think shuffling at the handler position makes sense. Box has to be on O.
Yes.
And then you need to figure out like what combinations of handlers are going to work for the way you want to run your offense.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of getting by with like Sean Mott. I feel like making a lot of the hard throws. Like
he looked awesome at US Open, and then what I saw this weekend, he did not look good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a sustainable plan. I think he could be on your offense, but like, do you want him to be the guy? I don't know. Interesting challenges ahead for a bunch of these teams.
Definitely a lot of tuning to be done between now and nationals.
I feel like more than ever, the team that gets the most better from here to nationals could win. Like there's a lot of teams have holes or gaps or problems that they need to solve in a way that it doesn't feel like I've noticed as much in past seasons. And maybe that's like a little bit of a World Games impact, UFA impact for some teams. Interesting challenge. I do think that like just time and regionals for some of these teams is going to make the difference because, you're adding players in, people are out, rejoining. It takes time for offenses to get comfortable.
I think our mailbag question of the week is going to coalesce some of these things that we've been talking about across all three divisions.
Let's do it.
All right. This week's mailbag question of the week comes in from Dan. And he said we have a pretty strong set of favorites across three divisions. We talked about them, Fury, Revolver, and Hybrid. But who are your other three semifinalists in each division? Too early picks, Charlie? Is that where we're at here?
Oh boy. Where do you want to start?
Well, we were just talking about men's. Let's start there while it's fresh.
Okay. So yes, I definitely have Revolver in there. I'm going Machine, Rhino, dig. And yes, I'm leaving out
Yeah,
Pony.
I know you got to leave out somebody. Somebody's
Yep.
not making it.
Pac-Men. I'm leaving them out. Pac-Men.
I'll take Machine and Rhino. Mallard, maybe Mallard's the fourth. We are all Mallard.
Mallard, Jack Williams, and Ryan Osgar on the series roster.
Yeah, EMF I think is on the series roster.
Will they get past Sub?
I mean, sub's good.
Let's not get sidetracked.
You're killing me here.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to pick the same thing as you, but I think that's where I'm at right now. Do I really want to write off Pony? Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I got to go the same 4 right now.
Wow.
Which division? You pick the next division, and I'll go first.
I just think the top end of the men's is very strong right now. I think like Pony included, like those 5 teams are very strong. Okay, mixed division. You go first.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take hybrid and BFG. And then I think I'm gonna take exist and trying to make sure I don't miss teams that weren't at Pro Champs. You know, your mischiefs and whatnot.
I'm looking at the lineup. Yep.
You know, like can I buy on this Toro team? Shame.
Good.
Another team you don't want to sleep on. But I think I'm just gonna take Dragon here.
Yeah.
Reliable. Have we seen hybrid BFG exist Dragon? It's pretty boring.
I'm going hybrid BFG exist Disco Club. I'm a believer in the Austin team. But I think Toro and Dragon in particular have a good chance. When it's Mile High Trash and California Burrito, we're gonna be like, we should have seen it coming.
Toro, Mile High Trash, and Pizza Rat.
All right, women's division. Okay, so obviously Fury. This is not easy. I'm going Fury, Brute, Scandal.
I feel like that is the easy part.
So much is going to come down to draw. Because, so right now, barring craziness at Nationals, Riot gets the locked spot in Pool D as the 1 seed. And then it's random draw, remember?
Yes. So someone is going to get like Molly Brown as a 3 seed in their pool. That's what's up.
Well, that's also true. But where Phoenix lands feels like a big deal. Like Phoenix and Bent feels way scarier to me than Schwa on flip side.
Yeah, but you can't predict this, so you got to just.
I know.
You know.
But I don't really. I think Riot is the susceptible team, but they have like a 50% chance of getting like a really good pool draw, and then being fine and like getting a pretty comfortable quarterfinal and going to semis. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to take the advantage that they get by being a locked 1 seed and say that it's going to be the top 4. I really wanted to pick Phoenix, but I just feel like Phoenix is, going to get screwed and get slapped into Fury's pool and then, get a bad draw in quarters and then they're cooked.
Don't you put that bad juju on producer Lindsay Sue?
I'm sorry. I like the pool draw is going to be a big deal in the women's division.
I wholeheartedly agree, but so I think that you're making a very a smart, well reasoned, logical play. Uh, but I think Phoenix is good, and I'm taking them. So I'll take
Okay.
Fury Brute Skittle
Over
Phoenix.
Riot. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's very fair.
And not just Riot. Like, I think Bent's gonna end up being pretty credible, and I leave the light on for Parcha.
But I'm out on Schwab, out on Flipside, and I think I'm out on Molly as a semis team. You got to
Oh my
believe
God,
the
what a
results in front of your
crazy
eyes, Keith.
thing.
You must
I know.
believe the results in front
We're-
of your eyes. You cannot simply give teams credit for what they've done in the past. Every time I do that, I pay the price.
Yeah, but you're also captain, like, go where the talent is. Like, that is one of your go with the teams that have done it before and go where the talent
It's
is.
true.
Like, I feel like
It's true.
in a lot of ways you should be picking.
That's fair. But I it's not working right now. I don't know.
I get it. I'm scared off right now too. I cannot pick them.
Let's see how we feel. I mean, not that South Central Regionals is going to give us much to know about. Like Molly, Molly could beat Kelp 15-2, and I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, but I really hope they go out and do that. I would love for them to back it up and you know
And not win
smash
like
dimes and Kelp.
15-13.
Yes.
Yeah. I still remember that year. It was one bid region, and they played Texas, and they were down like 8-5 at half. And it was like, whoa, what's going on here?
They were going to lose the showdown. Oh my gosh.
They were going to lose the showdown and miss nationals. And then they had to grit it out crazy in the second half. All right, let's get to our mailbag. Oh, that was our mailbag question of the week. That's just it. We're done. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us. Interesting club season comes to a close. Sectionals gets started this coming weekend. Good luck to everybody who's playing in sectionals and is fighting for those spots at regionals. We know that's the real ones. One of our cam ops told me this weekend, Great Lakes, whatever men's sectionals is the purest form of ultimate. Yeah, that's a lot of people playing for those big games in early September. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.
Fulton State, baby. Texans. We out here getting wins.